Hello my dear old fruits and welcome to the broadcast. We are going to be discussing matters of royalty for the first segment, and then we will move on to a tip jar corner where I shall show you a few trinkets that I picked up recently and perhaps read through a couple of poems for those of you who enjoy that, and I will put timestamps in the description box so you can make your way there or avoid it as your want or whim. But let's begin with many happy returns for Queen Camilla, who turns 77 years old today. She was born on the 17th of July in 1947, which of course makes her a fellow Cancerian, and we all know that that's the best sign of the zodiac. Not that I'm biased at all, you understand, but we're pretty fabulous. Ask Queen Camilla. And there were well wishes from the Prince and Princess of Wales, wishing Her Majesty a very happy birthday, and the image they provided was of course taken by Catherine at Ray Mill for Country Life a couple of years ago. Do you remember that beautiful photograph, wasn't it? Really showcased Catherine's talent behind the lens. And the official royal family account shared tidings as well, with an image of the Queen posing on the balcony of the former home of Victor Hugo, taken this week while they were pottering around Jersey and Guernsey, more of which we'll speak of later. But it was nice to see that the rain cleared after the first day in Jersey and their Majesties have been able to bask in the warmer climes. But of course duty comes before personal pleasures and personal recreation when you are a royal. So after returning from the Channel Islands, lickety-split, Queen Camilla spent her birthday morning today accompanying King Charles to the state opening of Parliament for the King's speech. At the Palace of Westminster, a packed House of Lords awaited His Majesty's arrival. A horse-drawn carriage left Buckingham Palace carrying the crown regalia of the imperial state crown, the cap of maintenance and the sword of state. The King and Queen travelled in the Diamond Jubilee state coach drawn by 6 Windsor Greys. It is of course the most comfortable and most modern out of all the carriages, with fancy suspension and air conditioning and all these sort of bells and whistles, my dear. And the birthday queen herself wore a silk crepe embroidered dress by Fiona Clare, a diamond collet necklace, diamond Van Cleef & Arpels earrings and a diamond bracelet. She was glittering, she was dripping, and she wore King George IV's diadem, the one that was made in 1820 for the coronation of George IV, to encircle the King's velvet cap of estate originally. And the national symbols of the rose, the shamrock and the thistle, are incorporated into the diadem, which was worn by Queen Victoria and Queen Elizabeth II for the processions to their coronations, because the Privy Council at the time rejected King George's wish for the crown to bear these symbols rather than the traditional fleur-de-lis. And on arrival at the Houses of Parliament, their Majesties were received by the Lord Great Chamberlain and taken to the royal robing room, where they put on their robes of state, and the King adorned the royal head with the imperial state crown, which still gets on my wick, the way that those pearl droplets jitter about in it. I think it is so unbeguiling, and I meant, didn't I, to write to the King and tell him, please charge the crown jeweller to make them stationary. And I am deadly serious, and when I mentioned this before, lots of you agree with me. They look fine when the crown is stationary, but when it's in motion and they're trembling about like a pair of hamster's balls, it's not becoming. I must write to the King. You heard it here first. The great theatre of the occasion included rituals and customs, including the Vice-Chamberlain of the household, who is also an MP, being held captive at Buckingham Palace during the event to guarantee the monarch's safe return, and the King's Protector, which is a ceremonial role known as Gold Stick in Waiting, and is also alternatively performed by the Princess Royal. She did it last time. Well, this was carried out this time by Lieutenant General Sir Edward Smith Osborne, a retired army officer who served with the Life Guards, and Sarah Clarke, in her role as the Usher of the Black Rod, knocked on the door of the Commons chamber 3 times, but only after it had been slammed in her face, as is tradition. In this regal act of theatrical performance, the door is slammed on the order of the doorkeeper of the Commons to symbolise the rights of Parliament and its independence from the monarch. and after Black Rod's 3 knocks, she was eventually admitted to the chamber for this ancient ceremony. And then it was time for what's come to be known as the Queen's Speech in Elizabeth's day, and now the King's Speech, although the official name of this speech is the Speech from the Throne. And this outlines the government's agenda for the coming year. It is written by the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, and his cabinet members, reflecting the legislative agenda for which the government seeks the agreement of both Houses of Parliament. It is read in formal, neutral tone. The King did very well doing this, which implies neither approval or disapproval of the proposals of their government. And I strongly disapprove of the smoking ban which is being upheld and carried through to this government, and they're going to dish that on everybody because unbelievably we don't have minds of our own now. We can't decide whether or not to make bad decisions. And before anyone mumbles to me about they don't want to breathe in passive smoking or second-hand smoking, fair enough. You should have rules and regulations to protect you in various public spaces. But people who decide to smoke should also have protections for their own free will and their own mind. And if they want to take up a vice, they should have the perfect right to do it and pay enough taxes while doing it that are added on to cigarettes. I think it is absolutely ghastly and beastly, and to think that it came through originally from a Conservative government. Shocking. And I'd certainly wager that their Majesties would agree with me, certainly Queen Camilla, that's for sure. But the King did very well in hiding his true feelings on all the subjects and did his job. So there we have it. The speech itself was as boring as they always are, but it was nice to see the jewels, get the old jewels out, wasn't it, my dear? Some carriages. It was a lovely sunny day for them, and of course seeing their Majesties dripping with jewels is always fun. And as I say, they'd only just returned from the Channel Islands, and after drizzly Jersey, they skipped islands to Guernsey, where the weather was more clement, and their engagements in Guernsey showcased the unique local culture and heritage of the communities of Guernsey, Alderney and Sark. And at St. Peter Port, their Majesties attended the special sitting of the States of Deliberation. The Channel Islands, you might know, are not part of the Kingdom, of the United Kingdom. They are actually divided into 2 crown dependencies, Jersey making up one of them, and Guernsey and all the rest of the smaller islands the other. And Guernsey has its own parliament, its own laws, judiciary, government, flag, stamps and banknotes. The States of Deliberation have existed since the 15th century, actually going back even further than that, and it comprises 40 voting members, and it's tradition for a special sitting when the monarch pays their first visit to Guernsey. And at the Crown Pier, their Majesties met with the local community, including traditional dancers and the Nature Commission. The Queen toured the historic former home of Victor Hugo during his exile from France. He's the guy who wrote various masterpieces, including Les Miserables, which he wrote here in this house. And this house is a work of art designed by Victor Hugo himself, so she enjoyed having a rummage around the place. To end the day, their Majesties saw granted a royal title to the rare golden Guernsey goat breed, who were rescued from oblivion when discovered on the island in 1924, and then they met with delegations from Alderney and Sark, with showcases from the thriving voluntary sector and from Sark school children, who performed songs in the island's native language, Serkia, including a rendition of Happy Birthday. But that's enough royal nonsense for today. Let's head over somewhere different, shall we? Tip Jar Corner. Welcome to Tip Jar Corner, my dears, where I shall showcase a few trinkets that I've picked up. All of these trinkets came from charity shops, and thank you so very much to anybody who sent me a tip jar treat. It's very much sincerely appreciated to put towards my own funds, to rummage around in the charity shops and find some gems so that I can wear on the broadcast to you, as well as all my wardrobe, my charity shop finds, such as this that I'm wearing, a mandarin number. Isn't the colour wonderful and vibrant? Beautiful, lush, turquoise, ocean blue, azure. Wonderful. Well, here is an attractive bowl that I picked up in one of those shops, and it appealed to me in these tones of burnished gold, decorated with songbirds and flowers, reds, golds and greens, with an intricate design, and it reminds me in some way of Tudor designs and also with some Islamic references, but a useful bowl for chucking things in here and there. And a few new brooches that I'm excited to wear with forthcoming outfits, including this one, the Moondrop brooch, with a centralised pearl, a deeply soulful patina on a bed of moonglow and starbursts, each one a reed of glitter, an ore of brilliance, stately and ethereal. Really nice, that find. And this brooch is the Teal Confession. Curlicues of sea foam formed together in waves, studded with bright gemstones in complementary shades of blue and emerald green, a mysterious piece, full of wonder and heavy with secrets. And now presenting the diamond leaf brooch, truly elegant, a classic design inspired by nature and featuring a sparkly smattering of jewelly leaves, bristling on a twiggy cage of white gold interspersed with dark enamel foliage. It's very royal. And I couldn't resist picking up this silly little brooch that was on the counter beside it. It's too small really, but it was fruit, and so I just had to take a bite. And I've called it the Lust of Eve brooch. Rubious, seductive enamel with a shiny green leaf and a golden bite of forbidden fruit. Well, it does taste the sweetest. And moving on to necklaces, here we have the Pussy Willow pearls. 4 light strands of silver gold thread glimmering with antique beading, milky goldeny hues of iridescent cream to beautify the throat of the wearer. And these are the Maharaja's private parts, one in ruby and emerald, the twin in white diamond. They are fit for an emperor or empress, king and consort or queen and consort, on chunky strings of diamond leading to a cascade of teardrop gemmies. This necklace is the Toblerone. 5 stones in beige, lightly faceted, with lavender grey stones in pyramid trios. This piece plays on the triangle, with a serpentine chain of gold links. This is a unique piece. I mean, who would make one twice? And this gold collar necklace, or small bib, is extremely intricate, with an articulated lattice and a crowned heart to the centre, with baubles, sunflowers and fine detailing. Some vintage earrings for you now, my dears. These retro pom-poms are such fun, in a very pale green, almost blue, and they remind me actually of old swimming caps. Or, what was her name? Esther Williams. Yes, puts me in mind of Esther, my dear, and all of her aquatics. Very fun, very fun. And these are deep blue antique clip-ons. Not that I really wear clip-ons at all anymore. Now I've got my pierced ears, and I'm wearing cuffs for you today. But they are also pierced, so I'm not really into the clip-ons these days, my dear, but I couldn't resist them. And of course they reminded me of the late Diana's eyes, so I had to have them. Sapphire eyes of Diana on silver, large stones, framed by smaller gems. And this pair offer the palest blue petals in the flowers there, with diamonds at the centre, and dark metals hanging from them with nature's charms depicted. I picked up this book, this poetry book, Gems of National Poetry, and it's made out inside with a dedication to Bertha Frances Walkerdine or Walkerdine, and I couldn't work out what it said at first, whether it was Walkerdine or Walherdine, so I'd been Googling it. Anyway, for her 21st birthday, August the 10th, 1906, from Wilfred E. Walkerdine, with all good wishes for the future. And as I said, I put the name into Google because it was quite unusual to my ear. And he came up. I mean, I'm presuming it's the same one, but how many Wilfred E. Walkerdines would there be, do you think? Perhaps there were a few. I mean, we're going back over a century, so I bear that in mind. But the first thing that came up under his name, well, it confirmed that his middle name, according to this, was Ernest, Wilfred Ernest Walkerdine, or Walkerdine. I can't make my mind up. Walkerdine. Walkerdine. Anyway, collected poems, 1900 to 1950, by Montgomeryshire Printing, 1952, which was 46 years after he made out this dedication to his presumably daughter or niece or relative in 1906 for her 21st birthday. I've been trying to put pieces of the puzzle together, you see, my dear. And there were other mentions of a Wilfred Walkerdine in the British Army, a gunner for the Royal Garrison Artillery. But I found that rather interesting to think that he probably put another compendium of poetry together himself, or wrote poetry himself. But they were certainly a family into poetry, weren't they? His book doesn't seem to be available on the internet at the moment, otherwise I would have picked up a copy. But I will be keeping my eye out for one. And this edition was compiled and edited by a Mrs. Valentine. And it had me at hello, this book, because I very much enjoyed the preface, which is studded with glittery references to jewels, so you know that I was straight in there, my dear. The editor of the following volume has, in compliance with the wishes of the publishers, endeavoured to present her readers with gems selected from all our chief national poets. In doing this, she has tried to avoid as much as possible, without serious loss, the most hackneyed passages of our elder bards, and has asked and obtained permission from our living poets to add to her gems from the past, gems from the present. Of course, there is a difference of value between these jewels of thought. The Koh-i-Noor has few, if any, equals, but though differing in value, the diamond, ruby, emerald, sapphire, topaz or opal are all gems and are all precious, and we thankfully accept them as they are presented to us. The Sea by Robert Southey. How beautiful beneath the bright blue sky the billows heave. One glowing green expanse, save where along the bending line of shore such hue is thrown as when the peacock's neck assumes its proudest tint of amethyst, embathed in emerald glory. 'Tis the Last Rose of Summer by Thomas Moore. 'Tis the last rose of summer, left blooming alone, all her lovely companions are faded and gone. No flower of her kindred, no rosebud is nigh, to reflect back her blushes, to give sigh for sigh. I'll not leave thee, thou lone one, to pine on the stem, since the lovely are sleeping, go sleep thou with them. Thus kindly I scatter thy leaves o'er the bed, where thy mates of the garden lie scentless and dead. So soon may I follow when friendships decay, and from love's shining circle the gems drop away. When true hearts lie withered and fond ones are flown, oh, who would inhabit this bleak world alone? Hymn to Diana by Ben Jonson. Queen and huntress, chaste and fair, now the sun is laid to sleep, seated in thy silver chair. State in wonted manner keep, Hesperus entreats thy light, goddess excellently bright. Earth, let not thy envious shade dare itself to interpose. Cynthia's shining orb was made heaven to clear when day did close. Bless us then with wished sight, goddess excellently bright. Lay thy bow of pearl apart, and thy crystal shining quiver give unto the flying heart space to breathe, how short soever. Thou that mak'st a day of night, goddess excellently bright. And I'll end with this poem, Beauty, by John Keats. I was always mesmerised with that line from Mary Poppins when she brings various paraphernalia out of her bag, her carpet bag, doesn't she? And she brings out a plant, that's it. She says, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. Well, that was the first time I heard it quoted, but of course it was Keats. So I'll end with his poem, Beauty. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases. It will never pass into nothingness, but still will keep a bower quiet for us, and a sleep full of sweet dreams and health and quiet breathing. Therefore on every morrow we are wreathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth, spite of despondence, of the inhuman dearth of noble natures, of the gloomy days, of all the unhealthy and o'er-darkened ways made for our searching. Yes, in spite of all, some shape of beauty moves away the pall from our dark spirits, such the sun, the moon, trees old and young, sprouting a shady boon for simple sheep, and such are daffodils with the green world they live in, and clear rills that for themselves a cooling covert make against the hot season. The mid-forest brake, rich with a sprinkling of fair musk-rose blooms, and such too is the grandeur of the dooms we have imagined for the mighty dead. All lovely tales that we have heard or read, an endless fountain of immortal drink, pouring unto us from the heavens' brink. Nor do we merely feel these essences for one short hour. No, even as the trees that whisper round a temple become soon dear as the temple's self, so does the moon, the passion posy, glories infinite, haunt us till they become a cheering light unto our souls, bound to us so fast, that whether there be shine or gloom o'ercast, they always must be with us or we die. Therefore 'tis with full happiness that I will trace the story of Endymion. The very music of the name has gone into my being, and each pleasant scene is growing fresh before me as the green of our own valleys. So I will begin now, while I cannot hear the city's din, now, while the early budders are just new, and run in mazes of the youngest hue about old forests, while the willow trails its delicate amber, and the dairy pails bring home increase of milk, and as the year grows lush in juicy stalks, I'll smoothly steer my little boat for many quiet hours with streams that deepen freshly into bowers. Many and many a verse I hope to write before the daisies, vermeil-rimmed and white, hide in deep herbage, and ere yet the bees hum about globes of clover and sweet peas, I must be near the middle of my story. Oh, may no wintry season, bare and hoary, see it half finished, but let autumn bold, with universal tinge of sober gold, be all about me when I make an end. And now, at once adventuresome, I send my herald thought into a wilderness. There let its trumpet blow, and quickly dress my uncertain path with green, that I may speed easily onward, thorough flowers and weed. Thanks for joining me, my dears. I appreciate your company. Let me know your thoughts below. Tell me what you've been up to in the comment section. I look forward to hearing from you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Ta-ra, my dears, and toodle pip.